It was 2 weeks before the fight, final spar, fourth round. Young lad's got me in a single leg. He's trying to like take me down, and then he's ended up turning fast. I turned the other way, and it's just loud pop. A bit of the meniscus had gone, MCL, PCL. There's just a list like this of what had happened on the inside. If you miss a date in these tournaments, you're out. Like, it's not like you can ring up the UFC and go, I picked up a niggle, pushed the fight back a month, which would have been ideal. So that's not even an option in the PFL, so get that out of your head.
Okay, there might be a deficiency between both of these guys when it comes to grappling. I'll give you that all day long. But Ian Garry's good enough, I think, to be able to stay out of the way of that.
Alexander Gustafsson got on one knee in the octagon.
Oh, yes!
Never won a fight since
Jeez.
It is like a bit mad. It's a mad stat, isn't it?
There you go. That's why Bren's not got married yet. Welcome to Uncaged from talkSPORT MMA. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure to be in your company. We're going to have a look back at last weekend's MMA action from Saudi Arabia. Look ahead to this weekend in Las Vegas at UFC 310. And there's a little bit of news stories as well, because you may have seen over the last 24 hours, headliners for UFC 311 at the start of the year where Islam Makhachev's back out. Arman Sarukian's getting his shot. Rematches on like Donkey Kong. And there's also a nice little co-main event where Merab Dvalishvili's taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. Loads of that to get stuck into. But you're not here for me. You're here for this man. On his birthday, giving up time to come and have a chinwag with me. He should be out eating cake and enjoying himself in the desert heat of Dubai. He's decided to give up a bit of time for us. How are you, Mr. Loughnane?
Yes, Adam, mate. Nice to finally see you again after last week. Do you know what I mean?
Telling you, my man. Happy birthday, first and foremost.
Thank you.
There you go. 35 laps around the blooming sun, now sunshine. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
Now you actually say it out loud and verbalise it. I was trying not to say it out loud.
You've got a good moisturiser, mate. You've got a good moisturiser. You don't look a day over 32.
Nice one.
Listen, dust has settled, obviously, on last weekend. We were in Saudi Arabia for the PFL World Championships on Friday, of which you were the main event, against Timur Khizriev. Didn't go your way. Now the dust has settled on it. How have you processed it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've actually spoke about it, I think, like, openly. Yeah, it was a tough fight, mate. Really tough fight. Tough guy. Very well-rounded. You know, he made a lot of improvements from the last fight I seen him before that. Difficult to fight people from that region that are so well-rounded. I knew what I was up against. No regrets. And, you know, I dared to be great in the fight.
You say you dared to be great, right? I'm going to get the elephant out of the room because the commentary team have obviously spoken about it. They were pointing out various things. I watched it back on TV and they were pointing out various things regarding you and the way that you were performing. I know as to why there was maybe a little flaw in the performance. Do you want to talk about it or not? Is that something that you just want to leave to one side?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, Sam Khan's already put it out there, so it's out there, isn't it?
Yeah. So you told me during fight week that you picked up an injury during the last couple of weeks of fight camp. But there's $1 million on the line. It's the PFL World Championships. We're rolling the dice, man. And we're going to see if we can catch him on the way in.
Yeah. And you know what it is, right? Like, I said this is one of the things about the PFL that's really difficult before, is if you miss a date in these tournaments, you're out. Like, it's not like you can ring up the UFC and go, I picked up a niggle, pushed the fight back a month, which would have been ideal. So that's not even an option in the PFL, so get that out of your head. It was 2 weeks before the fight, final spar, fourth round. Young lad's got me in a single leg. He's trying to like take me down, and then he's ended up turning fast. I turned the other way, and it's just loud pop. First of all, I thought it was my ACL. I didn't even want to put weight on it because I thought, wow, no way's my ACL just gone. The sun up wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. When I got an MRI, You know, a bit of the meniscus had gone, MCL, PCL. There's just a list like this of what had happened on the inside of the knee. And we've got 14 days exactly to the fight, and I'm like, right, I've got two choices really: pull out or don't pull out. Option one was pull out and live in a lifetime of regret. I wonder what if, and what if you did roll the dice. So when you sat in the pub at 50, talking about how you could have been a 2-time world champion, and then option number one was do everything you possibly can to get the fittest you can in the next 2 weeks, and then just roll the dice. And I went for the latter option. It didn't pay off. Do I regret doing it? Absolutely not. I reckon my brain regrets it. I reckon the damage on my face regrets it. But, I mean, inside my heart, I had a go. I rolled the dice. And I just, like I say, it's a week since the fight now, nearly. You know, I'm just talking openly about what happened. I'm not here to make excuses. Do I think I would have beat him with a healthy knee? Probably not. You know, I really do think that guy is a really tough puzzle to crack. Would I give him a better fight? 100%. So there's my 2 pence on it all.
I'll say some bits on the decision to fight in a minute, but regarding the fight itself, one of your key strengths, especially when if we just highlight the time that you won it against Bubba, one of the key strengths there in taking on a wrestler is the way that you would be able to switch stances, keep him guessing, and keep him guessing on his shooting. With the meniscus gone in the right knee, you couldn't do that. So therefore, one of the key elements of defending what he was really good at, and he actually surprised a lot of people on the feet as well. I thought he was really good on the feet,
big time,
which we'll get to in a minute. But his main strength is that wrestling base. With you not being able to defend from a southpaw stance, because obviously if you front up with that knee, he's just going to boot the living daylights out of it in it, and the fight's going to go. So obviously one of your defensive armories was taken away from the fight point of view. How much, when you got in there with him and saw the development that he has absolutely made, there's no question about that, the development that he has made in his striking, how much were you impressed with what he was doing?
Big time. His hands were fast. He was mixing his combinations up. He was going from hands to legs. He was in and out of the pocket. Yeah, like he made massive strides in his striking compared to the fight that I've seen previously. I really do think I got the best version of him. It was the world title version of him. It was a $1 million version of him. So, you know, couldn't expect nothing less. And like Adam, mate, I just don't know. Like, look at that night. Look at the Messiah and Ulmatov, and I don't know what's going on over there, mate. But the levels they're ridiculous. It's just they just look completely wiped out every division. Like pretty much, it was just a Russian card, wasn't it?
Yeah, on the main card, for those that don't know, you had obviously, I'd say 5, but it's definitely 4 Russian fighters. Obviously, we've got kind of Russia as well in one of those fights. There's only Dakota, obviously, that came through away from Russia in those finals. So congratulations to her. We're going to talk about her extensively. But just on you, right, because I know you're not going to say this, and I'm sure that our audience will want me to say this to you, mate. The attitude that you showed in order to actually go through with that fight, that final, is kind of the epitome of your career. I don't know anybody that has had as many bumps and hardships and things not go their way as much as you, but your attitude towards reacting to those hardships is inspirational for a lot of people. There'll be a lot of fighters that look towards you and think, what would Brendan do in this situation? Well, Brendan rolls the fucking dice, man. Sorry for swearing. You can bleep that out later on. But that's what we do. When it hits the fan, we have a go. And you miss 100% of the shots that you don't necessarily take. It didn't go your way, man. But that's life. At the end of the day, you're not going to die with regrets, are you? You know. You had a go, and it didn't work out.
I mean, we had a chat, didn't we, in the pool just before it, in the hot tub. And I said, yeah, I'm carrying a little something. He just looks at me like, oh, God, what is it? And it's probably the worst when you could carry against a wrestler, isn't it? Like, your knee goes just before you're fighting a wrestler. So, you know, you're harboured in a big way straight away anyway. And then your knee's the main thing that you need to push back and forth. Your knee's the main thing you need to turn out of things. And that sort of stuff for the last 13 days before the fight was just giving me nightmares. Got to bed every night thinking, how are you going to do this? Like, what are you actually doing? And then I went to TK MMA because I came here just before the fight, and I seen Tam, and I said, you don't know anyone that can help me with this, do you? He was like, Brendan, man, what is wrong with you? I'm like, even he was just like me. And he actually did a video that he's got there. He went, I'm going to document this for after the fight. He goes, even if it goes your way or it doesn't. And he did like a 2-minute video about it all. He went, see this little warrior here rolling up to my office asking, has he got anyone to help his knee out? Because he can hardly walk through my office. But he's planning on fighting this Russian next week. And like, he did a whole thing on it. So, yeah, he didn't even ask me, mate. He just come out public. He went, I don't care if you're not telling people. I'm telling people. So that was the decision that I was faced with. And like, you know what it is hard sometimes though, when you do go online, like, wow, what's wrong? And you just see all the negative stuff.
Of course.
And you think,
and I know that's not you. That's why I asked you whether you wanted to talk about it or not.
Yeah,
It's not you.
Yeah, so, I mean, that gets difficult sometimes. But, you know, I did have a really healthy season up until that point. It was really good and everything went really well. And 3 wins, 1 loss this year. And I can't take away from the good performances and the good times that happened this year. I just came up against a really tough, strong fighter. And, yeah, I don't know. I just think even if you put that kid in the UFC, he's dangerous. I thought like, all right, round 3, round 4, this is where his tank usually starts going. He's going to start slowing. And he started speeding up, mate. I thought, well, that's when it was just started screaming and swinging. That's all I could do at that point.
I know this might be too early to ask you, but you've said to me in the past that this would be the last season, not necessarily the last dance, but the last season, last tournament that you would participate in, and the rest of it now would be singular fights going forward. Is that still the plan for you?
I mean, yeah, them seasons are never happening again. I mean, everyone's talking about Manchester. Is it going to happen? I'm not holding my breath on it. If it happens, then we can start opening them discussions. If not, you know, I'm not decided yet, but, you know, Manchester's the one that would really, really make sense if I was to do it again and I was to fight again. But right now, that was a lot of damage to take at 35 years of age. A hell of a lot of damage to take. I've got a family and I've had a great career as well. And I'm 30 and 6, sorry. So, I mean, it's a long time in the trenches. So let's have a little think about it. Let's see if Manchester happens and go from there.
Let the dust settle, mate. Don't do anything hasty. Like you say, if Manchester comes around, I think it would be absolutely fitting for you to come home and just see what people think of you. That's all I'll say on that, mate. On the Manchester vibe, shall we talk Dakota? Because my word, she absolutely stepped up to the biggest challenge of her MMA career so far against Taylor Santos. She was punch perfect. She was brilliant in the clinch, and she's really set tongues wagging now going forward. You know what that feels like, man. To get over the line, to get one of these wins, to get $1 million check put in the old bank. She must be on cloud 9, and now at the edge that she's at, the world's her oyster.
Incredible. PFL needs to grab onto Dakota Ditcheva with both hands. Like, they need to give her anything she wants. She is an absolute superstar. Walks the walk, talks the talk. Had an amazing season, and topped it off perfectly with a, you know, Taylor Santos 20-3. People were thinking, right, this is going to be a toughest test, the Shevchenko thing and all that. Mate, she just wiped the floor with it. It was just easy.
Never been stopped. Santos has never been stopped, and she just absolutely battered her.
Yeah, it's light work, and there's a strong argument that she is the best in her weight class in the whole world.
That is the big question now, isn't it, mate? Because the PFL have got a proper job on their hands. Speaking to Dakota in the immediate aftermath of it, of course, finances are going to play an issue, right? You want to get paid for what you guys do. But I think, speaking to her, it's about levels of competition now. What do the PFL have to offer Dakota Ditcheva in another tournament season or in one-off super fights? What do they have to offer her in the level of competition that's going to turn her on, that's going to get her excited, that's going to keep her improving and going forward?
And
it's a tough one for them.
Yeah, I think the truth in that is nothing right now. She's just clearly shown she's levels above everyone else at the PFL. So it's going to be difficult. Do they make new signings? Do they do one-off fights? Yeah, they're going to have to bring in elite fighters, but, you know, the top 10 elite fighters are pretty much in the UFC if they're not in the PFL. So they're rocking a hard place now, really, aren't they?
How big do you think she can be?
I think as big as it gets for women's MMA. I would say Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey was a bit of a game changer for women's MMA, so I think that ship sailed in that sense. But she can be a Rose Namajunas when she was at her peak. She could be, well, Shevchenko. You know, it's the fact that she is the full package. She really is. She walks the walk. She talks the talk. She does the whole Man City thing. You know, the celebrations, the charisma, the way her whole family's behind her. I mean, the list is endless. If you're going to put together a perfect package of a fighter to market and to watch, that is Dakota.
It is indeed. Exciting times ahead for her. I've no doubt she's got some big decisions. I'm sure her phone's been ringing off the hook over the last week or so. You mentioned a couple of the Russians there. I just want to highlight Musayev because he's fighting with Olmatov.
Wow.
As a guy that absolutely buzzes off striking masterclasses, and you've dished out a few yourself in your time, my man.
Wow.
These two, how technical was that? Just for the uneducated eye watching that fight, how technical was that fight?
Let me tell you about that, guys. Yeah, listen. If you want to watch the highest level mixed martial arts you could possibly watch, please go and watch Olmatov versus Musayev. Right? I mean, did you see how patient they were? They're both fighting for $1 million. It's their first $1 million. They're coming out one jab. He throws one jab. And they're proper sizing each other up. Nobody got giddy. You know what I mean? They waited for the moments, and it just so happened that Musayev came first. I'm a massive fan of this Musayev, mate. Like, his whole aura, even his way in the back of shed, the changing room, just watching him, he is the full package, mate. And I would put him in the ring with any 170 fighter on planet Earth right now. Anyone. He's incredible, Adam.
It was, like you just said, it was like watching a cobra just stalk, wait, coil himself up. And the minute he detonated, it was the setting up. It was, obviously this comes in the third round, so it's not like it's just a crash bang wallop situation. And Olmatov had success, I thought, in the first. Musayev comes back in the second, and then into the third. Sorry, the other way around. Musayev takes the first, Olmatov maybe nicks the second, and then Musayev just the feet. The footwork in order to get into position, in order to detonate what he detonates, to set it up, to set the trap. He falls into the trap, and on the whiskers was just absolutely beautiful. Even
the season leading up to it, look at him against Logan Storley. Like,
very good.
The way he pounces into the pocket with them hooks and them shots, he moves so fast on his feet. And I believe he's 20-0, was he now, Adam?
He has moved. I think he's moved to 17. So it was 18 and 16, I think, mate. You've caught me on the hop with the stats. Look at you. You've done me on the numbers.
Hold on. think about what we're talking about here. 18-0 versus 16-0. Like, beautiful. It was ridiculous, and you know what? It really stood out in the fight that they did have them records. Like the way they both waited in their moments and took the moments, and like you said, Olmatov also had his moments, but. Everybody, I'm putting it down on Shamil Musayev. Like, he is the man. The man.
Yeah. Obviously, the ending wasn't what you wanted, mate, but how was the week for you in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, different.
It's a different place, isn't it? It's a different
place. Different. I don't know where that PFL hotel was, if that was, like, we was in the middle of nowhere, what we had, and we were lost. So... I mean, it was 20 minutes to the nearest corner shop, so we were just like, we were just stuck, weren't we? So yeah, I mean, it was different.
As an event, though, I thought the arena that they were in, everything about it. I don't know what it was like from your point of view, from a fight point of view, but from where I was, mate, I thought they put together a decent event actually on the Friday evening, and I'm sure the fans that did attend had a good time. Shall we move on to UFC 310? That's this week. We've just been speaking about undefeated fighters. Obviously, we've got Shavkat versus Ian Garry in this one, but I just want to quickly touch upon the main event because the flyweight title's on the line. Alexandre Pantoja, big fan of him. New shaven-headed Alexandre Pantoja means business going into Vegas this week. Excited about this. Defended the crown on multiple occasions since he became champion. He's already kind of wiped out the division. There's fresh meat now on his plate this weekend in Kai Asakura, the champion from Rising, coming down in weight to take on the main man that is Alexandre Pantoja. Do you know what I love about stuff like this? When they bring in someone new to the UFC, that the old highlight reel and the myths and the stories from places that a lot of people haven't seen start to come out. How many X-rays have you seen of a fractured jaw this week that Kai Asakura smashed this jaw to pieces in one of his last fights, and everybody's getting giddy that this guy's got stones for hands. He's got unbelievable knees. He's got this crazy amount of power. Yeah, he has. None of that's a lie. But Alexandre Pantoja's seen it, done it, and got the T-shirt. He's seen everything. This is absolutely a step up for Kai Asakura. Can he live at the top level with the top boy in the flyweight division?
It's a huge step up. I mean, Pantoja's doing laps at the minute, isn't it? He's been around the top 10 for I don't know how long now, just lapping everybody. So, you know, Kai's coming from, you know, it's like, it's difficult because we see it all the time, don't we? Amazing highlight reels, amazing knockouts, and then they get in the UFC and they get flattened around. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm really not. But what I am saying is there's levels, and it's going to be interesting to see if he is that guy, because he might well be.
We've got MMA maths doesn't work, right? But we do have a tiny little bit of data because we had Manel Kape come out of Rising. He had 2 fights with Kai Asakura. First one went the distance. Kai Asakura gets his hand raised. Second one, Manel Kape knocked him out. Now, if you remember when Manel Kape jumped into the UFC, who did he face first up? Alexandre Pantoja. Pantoja takes care of him again over the distance period. Manel Kape has absolutely risen since, pardon the pun, to become an elite contender. But he did have a little bit of that feeling out process early doors, that jumping standard in the first 2 fights. He was finding his feet. Now he's found his feet. He's kind of got off. I just want to know if Kai Asakura can hit the ground running, because he's going to need to hit the ground running because he's taking on the best that the division's got.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Pantoja, I'm buzzing because I'm thinking to myself, you know, I know there's a bit of MMA maths locked in there, but we don't really take too much notice to that now. So he's thinking, I've got a new guy, he's bringing a whole country behind him. I've already done laps of the division. I'm over the moon to get some fresh legs brought in here. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a win-win for the fight fans, and I also think it's a win-win for Pantoja.
The people's main event, though, mate, is the co-main event, isn't it? Let's be dead honest about that. The fight between Ian Garry and Shavkat Rakhmonov. We've just been speaking about undefeated records in the PFL. Undefeated records here. You've got Shavkat, who's undefeated through 18 finishes. Frightening stuff.
Ridiculous.
And then you've got Ian Garry undefeated through 15. We're going to hear from Ian Garry in a minute because he popped up on talkSPORT's Drive Show yesterday with Darren Bent and Andy Goldstein. But he's talking the talk, mate. I don't know what it is about those dulcet Irish tones. They do start to convince you that something crazy is going to happen on Saturday night.
I mean, the Irish and the Scousers, they've got away with the words, aren't they? Like, you just literally believe them as soon as they speak, don't you? So, no, he's got an ultra confidence about him. And let's have it right, he's going to have to with the task that he's got in front of him, mate. He's got the hardest fight potentially in MMA right now, hasn't he? Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18, it's just ridiculous. Like, when you start talking about numbers and figures, it's ridiculous what that man's doing. But same with Ian Garry. Ian Garry's also looking incredible. I was just recently in the room with him this month, so I know exactly how good he's been looking. He was looking really good, really confident. And what a fight. And I know Pantoja is the main event because he's a title fight, but how this is a main event, I don't know.
Well, it's not a title fight, is it? But what I will say, in what you've kind of alluding to what you're just saying there, I actually think this is a more attractive fight for fans and maybe a more difficult fight for both men than the actual title fight. And that's, I don't want to be disrespectful to Bilal because he beat Leon Edwards. He's the main man. But I think that for both of these guys, this eliminator fight is a tougher fight than the title fight.
Yeah, agreed. And also it's a feeder in it. The next one's next in line for the title. I mean, you've got to be, it's definitely the hardest fight in the division. And you've got to respect both men because they probably could have avoided each other, couldn't they? They probably could have found a way to do it.
I don't know if you've seen any of the media stuff this week from Shavkat. He was asked loads of questions at the media day yesterday about the fights that he actually wanted, and he started listing them off. Like, I wanted Kamaru Usman, I wanted this guy, I wanted that guy. They all said no. Ian Garry stuck his hand up. Let's not forget this. Ian Garry was fighting Joaquin Buckley next week in Tampa. And he went, hang on a minute, I can jump the queue here. If I go and fight Shavkat and I beat him, I'm in. I don't care if everybody's saying no. He's referred to the opportunity of fighting Shavkat as a gift. Love that attitude, mate. That's the attitude that I absolutely love. And I think all fight fans resonate with those types of fighters. Win, lose or draw, you put it on the line. You give it everything you've got. You can't lose with the fans. You just can't.
Yeah, I agree, because I felt like MMA was half going down the road of boxing for a while, Adam. I really did. I thought, let's avoid them zeros. Like, we've got to keep this zero. We've got to keep this zero. So, massive respect to both these fellas, because they are really difficult puzzles to solve for each other. They're both taking on an equally hard fight, and they both probably could have avoided this fight till they were champions, so respect, fellas.
Yeah, and they both know each other, as Ian Garry was explaining on Drive yesterday.
Shavkat was in an interview this week, and he said that you two have sparred before, and in one of those sparring sessions, he choked you out. Is that true?
If he's hanging on to something like that from training 2 or 3 years ago, then guess what? Do it on Saturday night. Do it underneath the bright lights. Do it when it matters most. Let's see if you can do it. I promise you now, he is not ready for the speed and the beauty. He's going to look at me and go, oh my God, this guy's beautiful. What do I do? He's going to be left speechless. He's not going to know what to do. He's going to see this beautiful face, this blonde hair. He's going to see how fast I move and go, wow, this kid's special. And that's all he's going to think.
So just to clarify, did that happen?
Yes, it's training. Dude, if I told you about all the people that I have absolutely burned and choked in training, you would sit here and say I'm the best fighter in the world already. But the truth is, we're all learning and practicing in training. Do you know what I mean? When you were playing football, you're not going out there 110% every single training session, trying to go out there and kill that ball and smack it at your goal and do it as aggressive as you possibly can. You don't do that. You learn. You try to kick the ball a different way. You're trying to bend it a little bit different. You add a little bit of finesse to it.
Yeah.
You messed up a couple of times. You have success. You go, oh, how do I do this better? It's the same with fighting. So for me, if he wants to hold on to anything from 2 or 3 years ago, then hold on to it. But I promise you now, I'm a different beast than what I was when at that point in time. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to put a hole in his head on Saturday night.
The full Ian Garry interview with the guys from Drive is on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel right now. I don't know about you, mate. I don't really pay too much attention of sparring stories. You're there to learn, aren't you? You're there to put yourself in difficult situations. You're there to see what it feels like when you're in that horrible moment when someone is choking you out. Can you get out of the scenario? Ian Garry's found out that he couldn't get out of that particular scenario, as he's just admitted there. But I doubt he's going to want to go and actually put himself in the scenario in the middle of a fight come Saturday night, is he?
Yeah, sparring stories, I mean, even the fact that little clip came out and then it's clipped off the bit where he did get submitted, narratives can be put together with sparring stories and slide videos. You know what I mean? They can do so. I wouldn't pay much attention to that. And Shavkat, I mean, the thing is with Shavkat, it's the finishing rate, isn't it? Yeah. It's the finishing rate. That's what really, 18-0, 19. When they give you all them numbers, you think, all right. But what stands out on the paper is his ability to finish the fight in so many different ways. And like he said, he actually finished that spar, which was confirmed by Ian Garry. So in your back of your head, it still did happen though, didn't it? I know it's a spy zone, but you still did choke me out and made me tap. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. When you look at Shavkat, obviously since he's come to the UFC, he's actually gone more submission heavy with his finishes. But it's the style of the submission as well. They're not necessarily what you would class as traditional submissions. Bulldog chokes where your feet are in the wrong place and he's just strangling the living daylights out of people. Yeah. It's like the dude's got obviously unbelievable force in what he's doing. And pre-UFC, he was knocking people out with his hands. He's obviously done that, I think, on one occasion in the UFC. Ian's going to have to be at his very, very best in order to navigate this fight and come through. But if it is him that gets his hand raised, I won't be surprised, because Ian Garry's mentality is like, as proven in taking this fight, he's up there with the very, very best guys that are actually participating in this sport. Technically, on the feet, he's very good. He's a brilliant counterpuncher, great at manoeuvring and commanding the geography. Okay, there might be a deficiency between both of these guys when it comes to grappling. I'll give you that all day long. But Ian Garry's good enough, I think, to be able to stay out of the way of that for a period of time. Can he do it for 25 minutes? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, mate. But he's good enough on the feet to match what Shavkat's got, in my opinion. I might be completely wrong come Sunday morning, but I think he's got the ability. Whether he can do it over a period of time, we're going to find out on Saturday night.
Would you say you're giddy for this one, Adam?
I'm absolutely jacked.
Hey, we're giddy for this one. This is one for the MMA purists. If you're a real MMA fan, tune into that fight.
It's a naughty, naughty fight. Looking forward to it. And listen, credit to both guys, as you've said. Winner gets Bilal in the new year. Title fight on the horizon. You're playing for the biggest prizes. Let's get in there, man. And speaking of the biggest prizes, the heavyweight division seems in a little bit of a weird situation. I absolutely love, by the way, Dana White coming out and responding to Turki Al-Sheikh, who was with, I think he was with Ariel Helwani and our very own Adi Oladipo on their show that they've got for the Zone. He was talking about wanting to make John Jones and Francis Ngannou. And I'm like, whoa, hold your horses, Tonto. And Dana's kind of jumped in there and he said, no, listen, we might get there eventually. But first up, it's John Jones and Tom Aspinall. Tick, tick, tick. Which then means what comes after that in the heavyweight division in the UFC. Got a fight here, which is a rematch between Cyril Gane, delighted that he's back, against Alexander Volkov, who's looked really good since obviously Tom submitted him in London. It's a rematch. The first one was over 5 rounds. It was behind closed doors. It wasn't the prettiest of fights, if I'm honest, Bren. This one's a sprint because this is a 3-rounder. Do you think it affects either man's tactics going in?
I mean, kind of, but not really. 5 rounds, definitely a different ball game though, mate. Like 3 and 5 rounds are completely different training camps. Well, I think it affects it, not really. What about you?
I want to see. I know what I'm going to get from Volkov because I've seen the development since Aspinall and I've seen the development since the first fight with Gane. I think he's been brilliant. Last time out against Pavlovich, that jab, just a ramrod, smacking the living daylights out of him. And okay, he might have got Pavlovich at the right time because Tom blasted him this time last year. But I think Volkov, since he's been combing his hair in the octagon, mate, has been absolutely sensational. He's been absolutely sensational. We don't know too much about Cyril. Cyril got beat off John. He came back against Spivak, but he's been off making movies. He's been doing Netflix series with Georges St. Pierre and all this. He's a superstar in France. You know what I mean? He's worshipped. Has he been putting the work in? Now, the noise is that he has been putting the work in. We saw Habib invited him over to come and do some wrestling and grappling and all those types of things. If he's been putting that work in, that excites me about Cyril Gane because I think he's a top guy. I think he's a great fighter to watch. Brilliant kickboxer for a guy that's only been doing it for a short period of time. I'd love to see him commit to his shots a little bit more rather than be a bit tippy-tappy. But if he's rounded out that wrestling, that then excites me about what comes forward in the heavyweight division. Because if he's rounded out his game, he can absolutely get back to the top and be challenging for the top honours once again.
Do you know what's hard though, mate? When you say rounded out wrestling, it takes more than a year to round the wrestling out. Like wrestling's something, right? Honestly, that like when you're a kid, you get good at and then you get better at, and we're starting to see that now in MMA at the highest levels. It really is. I mean, you can get as good as you can get in a few years that you've been doing MMA, but wrestling's one of them things. Like Cyril Gane has shown a big hole there in that John Jones fight to me, and how easy John Jones was able to navigate to get the fight to the ground. Yeah, we're talking about John Jones, the GOAT, okay, but he looked like a fish out of water in that department. So it's going to be interesting to see with Volkov. Will he exploit that? Or will he use his size and his range? So we'll see which way it goes.
Yeah. Rest of the main card sees Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie, which I find a weird fight to put on the main card.
That's the strangest fight in the world, by the way.
Madness. I was there last year when Bryce Mitchell was knocked out by Josh Emmett, one of the most frightening knockouts that you're ever likely to see. And Kron, listen, Kron's Kron, innit? You know what I mean? It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Nate the Train, I'm a big fan of Nate Landwehr.
Same.
He's an absolute animal. You know that you're going to get full-on entertainment with him, and he's taking on Doo Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy. He's had a weird time. He got a win earlier on this year. He hadn't had a win since 2016. Yes, there's been mad things that you can signpost along that journey because he's obviously been doing his national service for Korea and all that type of stuff. Our mate Nick Peake's got a well-funny theory, right?
Go on.
Check this out. So the Korean Superboy gets married, right? Doesn't win a fight. Gets divorced, starts winning fights again. So Nick Peake's put it down to his missus. He said, it's her fault. You know what I mean? He said we're all over the place, and now he's back in the business.
Mate,
actually makes a bit of sense.
Mate, there's another one for you where somebody else has said that about a fighter. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Go on.
Didn't win a fight after getting married.
Go on, you're going to have to tell me.
Alexander Gustafsson. Yeah.
Oh, yes! Jeez.
Got on one knee in the octagon and never won a fight since it. Like, I'm not trying to say, but what I am trying to say is...
That's it.
It is like a bit mad. It's a mad stat, isn't it?
There you go. That's why Brent's not got married yet. Anyway, that's the main card. I actually think the prelims are really, really strong at UFC 310. You've got a fantastic fight with Movsar Evloev, who's undefeated again, taking on former champion in Aljamain Sterling. I can't believe that is way down on the prelims, but it is what it is. Dominic Reyes taking on Anthony Smith. And then you've also got a little bit further down, which has been a remake from the New York card, Chris Weidman and Eric Anders getting back on there. I'm actually delighted for Chris Weidman that he's got the fight back on, because it must have been heartbreaking that in New York City, place where he wanted to fight, that fight falling off on actual fight day, but they've got it back on.
Yeah, listen, them prelims are better than the main card. I don't know who's put this card together, but the prelims should be well the other way around, really, should it? I mean, Sterling versus Evloev, it's an incredible fight for the division. How are you going to put Cron Gracie and Bryce Mitchell above that? How? No
idea. For those that don't know the story of Themba Guerrero, he's the guy, he's the fighter.
Yeah.
That obviously were... For those that don't know The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, of course you'll know him, of course you will, right? He met this guy. He was inspired by this guy's story after he burst onto the UFC because Themba posted his bank account online and it had $7 in it. That resonated with The Rock. The Rock's met him. The Rock then ended up paying for his rent for a whole year in Miami so he could get about training. And what he was actually doing, Themba, with his prize money and his winnings, he wasn't keeping it for himself. He was sending it back. I think it's Zimbabwe that he's originally from, buying water wells and stuff like that for his village. That's why The Rock got involved. So he's got an unbelievable story. He's come in last minute to replace Nick Diaz, of all people, and he's taking on Vicente Luque. What a fight for him. What an opportunity. And I think the majority of no disrespect to Vicente Luque, I think he's awesome. He's a top guy. But the majority of the MMA community is going to be cheering that fella on in the hope that he can do something on Saturday night.
Mate, incredible story. I remember the video of The Rock giving him the house.
Yeah.
And it was heartwarming. It was touching. He's got a fantastic story. Seems like such a genuine fella, this guy.
Yeah.
And MMA is just full of stories like this, life changing. And you know, we do like Vicente Luque, but we all know who the public wants to win on this one. Come on, lad, get it done.
Get it done, indeed. There you go. That's how UFC 310's shaping up. You may have seen over the last couple of days the announcements for UFC 311. January the 18th is the date for this. Delighted that the rematch is on because it just made the most amount of sense given the fact that Arman Tsarukyan's just beaten Charles Oliveira in his last fight. It's Tsarukyan getting his opportunity at Islam Makhachev. First time around, it was tight, mate. It was a tight fight. Over 5 rounds. Deal me in. This could be brilliant.
Nah, honestly, mate, like, you know what it is, right? With this card here now, we could get fireworks, yeah? Or we could get some sleepers because, just to touch again on another fight on there has been a few boos when Movsar fights as well, though. I'm just going back to that fight. Let me just go back to it because...
Oh, that's the reason probably why they're on the prelims. Him and Aljo have stunk the place out a couple of times, haven't they? Let's be straight.
I mean, look at the Kelvin Cater fight with Aljamain. You know, Aljamain's actually a mate of mine, so I don't want to shit on him, but it was like, yeah, he did what he had to do to get the win. Evelev, I'm sure he's been booed out the arena a few times as well.
It's 8 wins, 8 decisions, mate. We live in a world where we want finishes, don't we? And don't get me wrong, he's perfect through 18 fights, but he's not been delivering those finishes.
Yeah, exactly. So, on that one, mate, you can see why it got moved to the previous, but it is quite a bit of a, like, FU moment as well, isn't it? It's kind of like showing what we actually want to see, rather than what's effective in MMA.
Well, that's why Nate Lanvier is on the main card, because he's super entertaining. He delivers on the microphone. He delivers when he's in there. He defends with his face. You know what I mean? People want that.
Yeah. So I mean, we know why, don't we? But just to touch on that, Evelev and Sterling is the fight to watch, ladies and gentlemen, on that card.
On the prelims. What do you make of Makhachev and Sarukian being booked for January?
What do I think of that? I just think with the first fight, with Sarukian taking it on short notice and actually out-scrambling Islam in a few exchanges.
Where are you going now?
No, it's such an exciting fight, man. Wow. You can't take into consideration how big Sarukian's balls are to fight Makhachev on short notice. Now he's going to get a full training camp. Now he's got loads more fights under his belt. The Oliveira moment when he's about to go asleep but doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, he's been through the fire. He's been tested, and I can see. I don't know though. Makhachev's so good, Adam. It's a tough one. He's so good.
He's awesome, mate. And I was asked about 6 months ago about what are the best 3 fights to make in MMA right now, and it was before we had Ilia Topuria and Max. So I had that as part of my 3. I obviously had Tom Aspinall and John Jones as one of the other ones. And the other one was this. Islam Makhachev versus Arman Sarukian. I think Sarukian has absolutely developed since that last-minute step-in against Makhachev. The performance, I thought, was very intelligent against Charles Oliveira to navigate that and come through. He's been brilliant. I like him. He's super entertaining. I think he's got the chirp about him as well. He's got a bit of personality. Yeah. But Islam has been brilliant. Don't underestimate beating pound for pound Volk twice in the way that he did. Don't underestimate what he's been doing in his division. But I would say that as champion, and this is no disrespect to who he has faced previously, this is his toughest test. This is it. Let's see what's what in January. I
honestly do think it's his toughest test. I think you've got an up-and-coming here in Sarukian that can do everything. He's got great striking. He's got great cardio. Unbelievable wrestling and scrambles. And he's shown that now in his last couple of fights. Islam is looking better than ever. Islam has made so many strides in his striking right now. He's dangerous from everywhere. Incredible. Like, fair play to Makhachev for taking the fight, to be honest. Because there was probably a few more he could have had before he got up against Sarukian again. But facing the fire, respect to both guys.
And in the co-main event, we've got Mirab taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. I think Umar... Listen, there's critique on Umar. Who's he fought? What's he done? Well, last time I watched him against Corey Sandhagen, who is a top contender, he shut him out. He was sensational that day. And that performance alone, I think, puts his head above the parapet. I know that there were people calling for maybe a rematch with Sean for Mirab, and there's a couple of other contenders in there as well. Maybe, but we're here. And I actually really like this fight. How does Mirab deal with someone that can wrestle as well as Umar? And now, as we saw in the fight with Corey, strike really, really well. This is going to be a fantastic fight.
Very, very tough matchup for Mirab stylistically. A guy that just relies on the takedown scramble, get up, get you tired, takedown scramble, against a guy with exceptional elite wrestling. Does it all well, great on the feet, gets in and out of the pocket. And again, from that Khabib Nurmagomedov lineage in that gym, training with all them guys every day. Incredibly tough fight for the champion on his first defence.
Yeah. On that card as well, we've had it announced that Yuri Prochazka is going to be taking on Jamal Hill. Listen, top contenders fight, you would think, in that particular division. With Magomed Ankalaev, you would think next in line for Alex Pereira. Yeah. I know that Pereira's already beaten Jamal Hill and Yuri Prochazka, but this is a way of getting back to the top of the tree.
Yeah, great stylistic matchup. does a lot for the division as well. So, yeah, tough one for both guys.
Job done. There you go. That's how your MMA is looking over the last 7 days or so. Obviously, review of last weekend and what's coming up this week. And we'll have a review of UFC 310. Will we get a new flyweight champion? Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Sakura. And who will win the super fight in the welterweight division? Who's going to be next in line for Bilal Muhammad? Shavkat Rakhmonov or Ian Garry? We'll give you a full review after UFC 310. How does your birthday look then, Sunshine? What are you doing?
I weren't really going to do too much, mate, but all my mates are on me now as we've been on this podcast saying, come on, lad, we've got to get sushi. So guess we've got to get sushi.
That's how you celebrate, mate. That's how you celebrate.
There you go.
Listen, go and enjoy some sunshine. Go and enjoy some downtime. I will see you soon, my friend, for a pint, a full debrief, and then...
Oh, can't wait.
We'll get back at it.
The Christmas pints, eh? Can't wait. See you in Manchester, lad.
There you go. Bring the man back to Manchester. That's what the fans are saying. Listen, thank you very much for tuning in to us. Make sure you subscribe to the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Plenty more UNCAGED coming and plenty more interviews with top talent as well coming your way. We'll catch you next time.